I'm Dominic Shales, co-founder of Paratus Communications, and I'm here with Will Winch, a solicitor at Mishcon de Reya, to talk about the Bribery Act and the implications for corporate communications departments and agencies. Hello, Will. Hello. Will, first of all, could you explain what's covered under the Bribery Act and why it was brought in?
The Bribery Act has four main offences. There's bribing another person, there's receiving a bribe, there's bribing a foreign public official, and if you're a commercial institution, there's the offence of failing to prevent a bribe. The Bribery Act was brought into force on the 1st of July 2011. It was done so because we, the UK, had ratified the OECD's Anti-Corruption Convention, and it was felt that it was time to update the rather archaic anti-corruption legislation that had been in force up until that point.
So what are the main areas of concern under the Act for corporate communication departments and agencies?
I think one of the main areas of concern for communications departments is going to be the level to which they're offering corporate hospitality and gifts and so on to both to their clients and also to the people that they're trying to impress. Hospitality itself is not specifically mentioned in the Act. However, in the guidance to the Act, it's recognised that corporate hospitality, while a completely normal and proper business activity, can be used as a cover for bribery. If it goes too far and it's disproportionate, then the Serious Fraud Office is going to be looking at it quite closely to see whether, in fact, people are using this as a cover for bribery, and it can lead to very serious penalties.
The obvious follow-up question to that is, what is proportionate and how does one judge it?
The government, in its guidance, gives a few examples. Either in the foreword to the guidance or the guidance itself, it mentions the Six Nations rugby, tickets to that, tickets to Wimbledon, tickets to a Grand Prix. All of those can be perfectly fine and acceptable, but the government does recognise that that corporate hospitality is a normal business activity, but one that can be used as a cover for bribery. And therefore, you need to look not only at the scale of the entertaining, the corporate hospitality or whatever it is, but also at the timing of it as well. Because if you're giving the hospitality to someone who is about to decide as to whether to give you a contract or not, as opposed to one of your competitors, then that could be seen to be a bit dodgy. It won't pass the sniff test, if you like. And it's that sniff test that the Serious Fraud Office and the Directorate of Public Prosecutions are going to be applying when it comes to deciding as to whether to start investigating and prosecuting your activity.
And just a follow-up question on that about the media. So giving hospitality to journalists in the expectation of favourable coverage, how does that apply under the Bribery Act?
Yeah, the Bribery Act covers a bribe which is a financial or other advantage that is given to another person essentially in order to try and persuade them to improperly perform their duties. Now, that means that if you're talking to someone in the media and they have a duty to report impartially, and a reasonable person in the UK would think that they have that duty and that they should be performing that duty in a certain way, if you give them a bribe in order to try and influence the way that they do things such that they do it improperly, then at that point you've got a problem, because that will then tip into being a bribe. Now, there's a very fine line between saying to someone that that you want to influence them in their decision, because that's what argument's about, that's what marketing's all about, is influencing people to make a decision that they may not have otherwise taken. But it's when you're trying to get them to do something that they really shouldn't do. So a journalist writing a puff piece that they think, actually, this product is rubbish, but we're going to say that it's quite good because we're going to get a freebie at the end of it of one sort or another, then at that point that's going to be a problem.
So what kind of penalties are potentially involved?
There are criminal penalties under the Act. If you're an individual who commits an offence, you can go to prison for up to 10 years. You can also, whether an individual or a commercial institution, be fined an unlimited amount of money. And it's important to remember that the fine is not based on the value of the bribe, but on the sort of level of profit that you're likely to derive from that bribe. So it can be large sums of money. In addition to those criminal penalties, though, there's also the catastrophic reputational damage that this is going to cause to your business if you get found guilty of an offence under the Bribery Act. And also, if you do any work for the government, it's important to remember that there's a mandatory ban on all government on pitching for any government contract if you've been found guilty of a corruption offence.
So, in terms of what communication departments and agencies need to do in terms of process, what do you recommend putting in place?
The Bribery Act contains the offence of failing to prevent a bribe if you're a commercial organisation. That means that if one of your agents, and agents is quite widely defined, it can mean employees or subsidiary companies or freelancers working on your behalf, if they go off and try and bribe someone else for your benefit, you're then liable and you can face the criminal penalties that flow from that, unless you've put adequate procedures in place that are designed to prevent bribery from taking place. Now, adequate procedures isn't really defined in the Act. It's pointed to in the guidance as being things that are proportionate, given your business, given the jurisdiction that you're operating in, given the sector that you're operating in. This means that you kind of need to do a risk assessment as to what you think your business is going to face. If you're dealing with jurisdictions where corruption is rife, then you need to put something in place that's a bit more robust than if you're just working onshore in the UK. If you're dealing with, for instance, the extraction industries, oil and gas and so on, those are traditionally going to be seen as being a higher risk of corruption than in certain other sectors. That means that you need to gauge where the risks lie and tailor policies which are designed to prevent those specific risks from taking place. I would say that you may not need anything at all, but I think it would be sensible to put something in place, whether it's, if it's a simple policy that simply sets out that what bribery is, so that people are aware of what their obligations are, what they should and shouldn't be doing. You might want to think about having a gifts and hospitality register for your business that says that if you get or propose to give gifts of a certain value or go to an event where the hospitality is likely to be quite lavish, it's probably quite sensible to put that down somewhere so that you've got a note of it, that it's transparent, and that you can persuade anyone who comes knocking to see whether it's worth prosecuting you. As to that, it's very unlikely that your organisation would have committed the bribe, and if one of your agents did so on your behalf, it was not with your knowledge or with your consent.
And I assume that Ms. Condorea would be well placed to help people who needed advice in this area.
Ms. Condorea is indeed well placed to assist if you need such a policy, or indeed training, because that's the other very important part, is that you need not only the policy, but you also need to make sure that people are aware of that policy. There's no point in having a policy that simply lives in a drawer. If you do that, you're not going to be covered. In the same way that if you've rolled this out so that people are aware of it, so that you give some basic training, and we at Mishcon are more than happy to offer that service.
So Will Winch, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.